This is an n8n workflow that I built a few months ago. It took me over 2 weeks to build. It has more than 100 nodes, and I just replaced it with a single prompt to Claude Code. On one hand, you have traditional workflows like this, where you are the orchestrator, and the workflow completely depends on you. If something breaks, you have to fix it. And now, with tools like Google Anti-Gravity and Claude Code, you can actually get better results in just a fraction of the time and without the learning curve that used to be attached to tools like n8n, make.com, and Zapier. It's now easier than ever to build solutions for yourself or your clients. And in this video, I'm going to show you my simple 3-step framework that we can use to build powerful agentic workflows. And the best part is that it's so easy that even complete beginners can do it. So let's dive right in. Now, the biggest advantage that agentic workflows have over workflows like this in n8n is that if something breaks in n8n, that means you're going to have to spend hours and hours debugging and figuring out what went wrong. And things can break for any number of reasons. Agentic workflows, on the other hand, are self-healing, which means if something breaks in an agentic workflow, the AI will go ahead and fix it itself. Now, the reason that workflows like these can be flimsy is because you've hard-coded the how. Every node is connected to the other, and we're passing very specific data between each node. This means that if and when anything breaks, you have to come back in and manually fix it. Now, if this was running inside your business and something broke, that's precious hours or worse, money that you lose. With agentic workflows, you just give the agent the outcome that you want and a guideline of how you want to get that outcome, and the agent takes care of the rest. If there's an error somewhere in between, the AI will try to fix it by itself. But sometimes AIs are too good at fixing problems, which means they might end up looking at a solution that isn't exactly what you wanted. And the framework that I'm about to show you will help you make sure that your agentic workflows get you the results that you want and stay within the bounds that you define. So the framework is called the AIM framework, which stands for Anchor, Instruct, and Manifest. The anchor is your system prompt and directive. This will contain the goal, the basic constraints that you want the agent to follow, and the fallback rules. And this is where you define what success looks like and which paths are acceptable to get there. The second part of the framework is Instruct. Here, the agent's going to take over. It'll break your anchor down into steps. It'll select the tools it needs to get you those results. It writes a plan, and it tests it. If something fails, it'll find another path, but inside the boundaries that you set. And the final part is the manifest, which is the execution. The output lands exactly where and how you specified. And the job is done when something shows up where you said it would. And if you follow this framework, you'll be one step ahead of everybody else trying to build AI agents. Because what most people do is that they nail the goal, but they skip the constraints, and then they wonder why the output was unpredictable. The n8n automation that I showed you was a social media research dashboard where it would pull content from a bunch of social media platforms and surface content ideas that I could use for my own accounts. So we're going to be building this exact same thing in Claude Code. So I've gone ahead and opened up Claude Desktop, and you'll see that I'm in Claude Code, and I've opened up a new folder to run this workflow. And here's the magic. This is the entire prompt that's going to go ahead and replace that whole n8n workflow. We're going to tell Claude Code to build a workflow that will scrape recent posts from creators listed in the creators.md file across 3 platforms, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And I will specify the time frame at the start of each run. Next, we're going to tell it where to get the data from. Now, these constraints are really important because if you don't specify where to get the data from, the AI might end up taking the path of least resistance, be lazy, and not really get you the quality of results that you need. So for social media research, we're going to be giving it some scrapers from Apify. If you're not familiar with Apify, Apify is a catalog of web scrapers. Basically, little pieces of software that you can use to extract data from nearly any website or platform on the internet. Apify has a very generous free account, which should be more than enough to get you started. So go ahead and sign up for an account. Now these are the 3 scrapers that we're going to be using for this workflow. We've got one for YouTube, one for LinkedIn, and one for Twitter. By specifying the scrapers beforehand, we can try to ensure that Claude Code only uses tools that fit within our budget. Otherwise, Claude might decide to use a scraper that's too expensive or something that is not really getting the data that we're looking for. I've worded this in a way that if any of these scrapers fail, Claude can fall back onto other scrapers from the Apify store. And that's completely fine. As long as it's using Apify, I'm happy. And these are the constraints that I've decided. When you build your own workflows, you'll have to decide your constraints at the very start. Now with the goal, data sources, and constraints done, we're also going to provide some context to the agent. And we're going to save all of that in a file which contains details about my business, my audience, and my content positioning. Claude will then load this into context every time it does the analysis to make sure that anything that it produces is specifically tailored for what exactly I'm looking for. We're also giving it broad guidelines for what we want from the analysis. And finally, in the output, we want 3 tweet ideas, 3 LinkedIn posts, and 3 YouTube short ideas. We want everything in a clean, well-designed HTML page that uses Claude's built-in front-end design skill. We took a 100+ node workflow and condensed all of that into a 300-word prompt. Now, all we need to do is make a list of the creators that we want to follow, add some business context, and save our API key in the folder. Alright, so here's my business context. Here's a list of the creators that I want to track across YouTube, X, and LinkedIn. And here's a env file with my Apify API key, which you can get by going into settings in Apify, going to API integrations, and finding your personal API token. Remember to keep this safe. I've saved these files into the new folder that I made for this workflow. Now all that's left to do is paste the prompt into Claude Code, hit enter, and let it do its thing. You'll see that it actually created a to-do list for executing this workflow, which means all that planning that you had to do manually for your n8n workflow is now being done automatically. So it read the folder, found the context. Now I don't have any particular preference for the tech stack, so I'm just going to say either. Now we want to be able to run this through the CLI and through an interactive prompt, so let's just choose both again. After understanding the entire assignment, it's provided us with 3 different approaches that we can use, and even flagged one as recommended, which is the one that we're going to use. It's come back to us with some documentation. Let's just confirm and let it do its thing. Now what's happening here is that all the planning that we would have otherwise had to do ourselves is being handled by the AI, which is why agentic workflows are that much more powerful. The multiple confirmations are coming in from the AI just as a matter of good practice, because it wants to get this right in the first run. And finally, it's going to confirm what the output page structure is. So let's go ahead and confirm. So it actually found 9 errors, and it's going to go ahead and fix them by itself. And it's really difficult to imagine an n8n workflow fixing itself, right? Now after some more self-healing, it's finally going to execute and build out the workflow for us. Now even though I fast forwarded this, all in all it took around 10 to 15 minutes for Claude to actually plan everything out. But these 10 to 15 minutes have a huge payoff in the long run because it's already gone through everything that can possibly go wrong and really spec'd out the project in a way that it can work consistently for you. Alright, so it took a while, but the workflow is ready. Now all we need to do is run this, and that will kick things off. Alright, so it ran into a few errors and suggested some fixes for us. I'm going to go ahead and suggest a different actor and tell it to make the other fixes. This is the self-healing part that we were talking about. Not only did it catch the errors, but it also suggested how it should solve them for you. And it's actually good that it's pausing and asking us about the error rather than trying to fix it itself, because that'll allow you a little bit more granularity and control over the output. So here's the result from the last 7 days. It scraped a total of 58 posts. We have platform analysis from Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Of course, there is a little bit of a bug where the top posts are just showing up as raw JSON, which we can go back into Claude Code and ask it to fix. But if we scroll down, we also have 3 tweets ready for us to just copy and paste into Twitter. We have 3 LinkedIn posts also ready to copy and paste. And we also have 3 scripts for YouTube Shorts. So let's just ask Claude Code to fix this. So there it is, the output is fixed for LinkedIn, for YouTube, and for Twitter. We can actually go ahead and click here to view the actual post itself. Awesome, we have our generated tweets, LinkedIn posts, and YouTube Shorts. So this did take a little bit of time because Claude Code did a lot of planning, a lot of research, a lot of testing before it finally came up with this. But now we pretty much have a reusable workflow. So anytime we want to run this content pipeline, we just have to go over into Claude Code, ask it to run the pipeline, and it'll just do it and fix any errors along the way. So no more nodes to debug, no more visual spaghetti that you have to show to your clients. You literally have a very neat folder that you can package and even reuse across multiple verticals just by changing the context and creators files. If you want to build this yourself, the prompt that I used to make this is in the description. And if you want to clone this entire workflow onto your computer to run out of the box, you can get it from my School community. There's a link there in the description. And there's also 40 other ready to plug in workflows that you can start putting into your business and delivering to your clients right away. So check that out. The link is in the description. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a like, and do remember to subscribe to the channel for more AI and automation content.